Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Patty. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm so glad you're here with us on the Lit Block to be sharing some of the new titles that are coming out that I know that teachers are going to fall in love with. I know that I have. I know one of them is mine too, but I can't help but love it. So
I
I
can speak
thought,
that I love it, so that's an unbiased.
okay. Thank you. So just for people listening, Tanya Ghans is the editorial director for the PD Essential lines of books. And there's some really cool books that have just been released or are about to be released. And I think this is the perfect time to talk about this. Honestly, on my personal Facebook page, yesterday, I listed out like my top 10-ish books of this year that I loved the most, and then asked others for books they love too. So I feel like this is just a really perfect time for us to sit down, think about new year, new books, and see what's out there, think about how we can use them in the classroom, and just imagine their possibilities. So what do you
Yeah.
have for us, Tanya?
Yes. And so, yes, I am the senior, I'm the editorial director, but for all you guys listening, my heart, a teacher for 2 decades, will always be. And so that's what really gets me excited about the content of these books, is how they really are aimed at supporting you in the really great work, but hard, challenging work that you guys do every day with our kids. So the first 3 books, there's 6 altogether, but the first 3 I think group well together because they're all centered on early childhood reading and how to really get kids off to that just right start. So the first book that we have is Wiley Blevins's Meaningful Phonics and Word Study, Lesson Fix Up for Impactful Teaching. Little something about Wiley. He's got an EDM from Harvard. He taught elementary school here in the United States and South America, and he has written and edited so many books on phonics and early childhood reading. So you're really getting advice from a master. This book is really, it shares the how-tos for building phonics instruction all around these 7 foundations, including blending and word awareness and using a smart scope and sequence. But just as importantly, he takes all of his knowledge and he really tries to show techniques and fix up so that you can take the work that you're already doing, refine it, and make it even better for students when it comes to phonics instruction. Super clear. And no matter what you're currently doing for your phonics instruction, whether it's really scripted or it's very loose and you need to create it, this book is going to be a great way to make sure you get that foundation set right. A second book in the same theme is interactive writing, developing readers through writing. This is by C.C. Bates. And this book, the title is a little deceptive because it seems like it's about writing, but it's really about reading. And that's the hook of this book. C.C. Bates, who is an associate professor in literacy education at Clemson. She has a PhD from Georgia State University and is just a world-class thinker when it comes to early childhood reading. And in this book, she takes you step by step through the process of co-creating simple messages with the idea of strengthening students' reading. And what's so great about these messages is that while they're developing reading skills through writing, it creates books and works that kids can revisit all throughout the school year. So it lays right into the work you're already doing, your morning meetings, your composing messages, stuff that's already happening in your classroom. This book gives you a way to do that even more strategically when it comes to developing student reading. So this is a great book. Now, the last in this series, if you will, of books looking at early childhood reading is Conquering Dyslexia by Dr. Jan Hasbrouck. So this book, as the title suggests, it comes to the early childhood reading work by looking at dyslexia, right? I mean, dyslexia is no longer a myth for us. It's no longer this thing that we don't know about. There's really solid research on what dyslexia is, how it presents, how to support it. And Jan really focuses on doing it early and doing it right when it comes to diagnosis and when it comes to really supporting kids and helping students who in the past have struggled so much because we as the adults just didn't know what we were seeing with these students, know how to get in there and help them immediately. So this trifecta of books, if you will, is really the holistic 1, 2, 3 punch in getting your early reading off to a great start, especially for your pre-K to 2 classroom.
Yes, and I think what I'm most impressed by with this trio is the fact that this trio addresses probably 3 of the hardest parts of teaching early readers.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yep.
very, very difficult to really make any decisions around dyslexia when they're so young. It's very, very difficult to have enough text in the classroom that is accessible enough for new readers to be able to practice their reading. That's where we get into the interactive writing that CC Bates had written about. And also those parts of phonics, phonics is such a big nut to crack. And we always know that whether it's whatever it is that we're using, there are always at least little spaces that can be shored up even more strongly. So thinking of this trio together of really helping teachers, especially of early readers, with the hardest parts of reading.
Exactly, Patty. Perfectly said. So these books, as you saw, I have the hard copies of because they're ready for you guys to go out and get right now. The next set of books that I really want to share with you guys, they are still in the presses, but they will be out very shortly. And that's why we want to give you the heads up on them right now. So shifting a little bit from thinking about early childhood reading to writing and its literacy, right? All interconnected, but these next 2 great books focus on writing for readers really K to 5. So the first book is by Leah Mermelstein, and the name of this book is We Do Writing, Maximizing Practice to Develop Independent Writers. Leah is a well-known expert and author in the teaching of writing and reading. She's a sought after, she's a sought after keynote speaker at conferences, and she's a literacy consultant. And she really helps to deliver high quality and cohesive instruction for teachers all over the United States and even internationally. So getting back to this book on We Do Writing, you know, Leah wrote this book because she noticed a silent epidemic that was that no one was talking about, and that is that students were not really writing independently. And I know, Patty, you know this in your bones, like, you know, and as a teacher, you're thinking, you know, where is the gap between what it is that I've just modeled and presented, and why is it so hard to make it transfer to children when they're on their own? And of course, there's no one right answer to that. All of these things are really complicated, but again, the job of a good book and a good tool that's going to help you as a teacher, we really tries to simplify that for you, or gives you a lens through which to think about the work differently. And what this book does is say, you know what, let's really take some time and slow down in the middle, right? When you think about the gradual release model that so many people have heard about, it's the idea of, you know, first it's close and then we do it together and then you're on your own. This book is really like, let's amplify and maximize that in the middle time when we're practicing together to really, like you said before, shore up that we're giving kids what they need before we release them. And so this book goes deeply into that with a lot of practical exercises and ways to get that done. But it's such a smart book because it really does hit on something that I think we all kind of know is true, but really saying we got to keep coaching our kids along the way before, you know, we can necessarily expect to see the great payoff at the end. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, this segues perfectly into Writer's Workshop Made Simple, 7 Essentials for Every Classroom and Every Writer. It's hard to talk about Patty when she's sitting right here in terms of her bio, but I will share with you In case you guys don't know, Patty McGee is a New Jersey-based educator and literacy leader who envisions learning environments where teachers and students discover their true potential and power. And I know those of you who are consistent watchers and fans of Lit Block, I am telling you something you already know. So just imagine taking everything you see here and packaging that into this really terrific book that aims to make Writers' Workshop something that all of us can wrap our arms around and use. So, not to mention, Patty has also received the Milk and Educator Award, and she's a sought after speaker at ILA and NCTE and ASCD, and I can go on and on and on. And here at Benchmark, we love her dearly for all the work she does, big and small, with us every day. And so, like the master carpenter she has really taken all of her years of work and distilled that information into 7 essentials that really help you create the Writers' Workshop classroom that so many of us want. We get the beauty and the big idea and the vision of Writers' Workshop, but we know it can be tricky to figure out, how do I execute this every single day? Patty's book is the book that's going to help you do this. That from how-tos for setting up the classroom, to sticking to daily structures, to using goals and strategies, all of that is broken down chapter by chapter with tools to support it at the end of each chapter that you can use in your classroom. And she brings all of that to you with the warmth and comfort, advice and clarity that, again, you see every day with here on Lit Block. So these two books together will really help you figure out how to take what's going on in your writing time in your classroom and how to focus on the parts that give you the most leverage to make it great. Patty, what are your thoughts on those?
Well, thank you so much for saying such wonderful things about my book. Gosh, it's been, 25 years of teaching in a Writers' Workshop setting, and a lot of fails and a lot of rewrites and revisions. Worked through the hard parts myself and found some inroads. And I couldn't be prouder to pair that with Leah Mermelstein's book, because honestly, as I was working through all of the hard parts, one of the things that I didn't pay much attention to was that in between of my model and kids try. And there's so much space for learning there. So to think about We Do Writing and Writers' Workshop Made Simple, both as like companions to support writing instruction in the classroom, they just go hand in hand. And I admire Leah so much for her practicality and also for her experience. So I know that both of those books are meant to be like a sidekick for the teacher, for any teacher, any educator who's looking to support their writers in their classrooms.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a gift to have people who have lived what we're about to live, say as maybe a brand new teacher, and can take those lessons and give it to us at the very start. I know as an educator, whenever I could get my hands on something that helped to start me on the right foot, or as I had already begun the work, it got to me just in time to really make it clearer and stronger. What a gift. And so all the books we've listed so far do that kind of work, and it's great. So again, I couldn't be prouder to be part of a team that's helping to bring this to our educators and to our teachers. So the last book I want to share, and you guys will love the cover like all of them when you see it, and this is Wire for Agency, 4 Simple Moves That Transfer Learning. And this book is written by Jen Hayhurst and Jill DeRosa, both teachers. Jen Hayhurst has a great Twitter handle, Good to Great, that she does with Mary Howard and Amy Brennan. She's a literacy coach, and both these women are experts in grades K-3 work. And in keeping with this idea of helping, bringing experts that are sharing what they've learned through their own experience to help strengthen the work of others, these ladies have really zoomed in on the importance of agency. And how do we build what some call a soft skill. I might call it actually a hard skill. But and the social emotional side that is so important for us to make sure that the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s that we're doing actually stick, right? Because we all know, like, if you just share the information out and you don't know, if it doesn't land and it's not owned by the student, then has learning really occurred, right? And so one of the ways that learning actually occurs is when children take ownership of it, but we can't assume that that's a given. Lots of these things are skills that have to be modeled, and they have to become something that it permeates throughout our classroom practices. So what this book does is take this big idea of agency and giving kids voice, something we all love to say, and I think many of us believe in, not quite sure how to do in the day-to-day, easily can slip by us when the clock is ticking and we have this to get to and that to get to. Am I thinking about but I think about how important it is to be developing that in children, that they realize that this is their learning. So this book takes that, creates a framework, and you'll have to get the book to see, but WIRE is the acronym for this framework, to show you 4 different ways that you can actually begin to execute this work in your classroom. So from building relationships with students to how to help them develop the classroom space in terms of materials and books and chairs and seating, to developing questions and co-developing questions with children so that they are an integral part of the learning experience process, not something that's just an aside, but that it's built into the work very organically and authentically. So this book, again, thinking about the holistic piece, really shows our commitment to reaching the whole child, right? I mean, education requires all of these pieces. And so this is our first book in a long line of books that will aim to talk about these other skills that children need to succeed. Very excited about it.
I am excited about this book too. I have had the honor of seeing it from its first, I guess, just list of ideas from Jill and Jen, and just watching it transform into something that really is so practical for every teacher, because we have certain aims when we teach, right? One of them is agency, and yet agency can be this very confusing or very hard to pinpoint or very challenging type of concept to build into a classroom on a daily basis. And Jill and Jen have really come together both through trial and error in their own spaces and their own classrooms. And those are my favorite books, by the way, the ones that have been brought about through the practice of working through the hard parts. And that's what Jen and Jill have done here. And that way we can pick up from what they offer us and bring that into our own settings. And of course, continue to evolve with agency, in this case, as the main goal, the main purpose of part of our teaching. So exciting.
Yes. And, all of these books together, I think, because they're the perfect size, in terms of being practical, but they're user friendly. I mean, if you can see, I'm going to show you from the side where it's not, all size books have their place, but the aim of this book is to really let you know that this is doable. The information in here is digestible. With the time that we have on our hands, kind of sort of from COVID, though I think teachers are probably working harder than they ever have before. Yes. But if you're here, you're also somebody who's interested in edifying yourself and growing. And so that's why we're talking about this. These 6 books in total are such a great way to just kick off your year well, to make the year that all the work that you've already been doing with kids, make it even stronger. These books all together are just, I think, the perfect way to make sure you're setting the right foundation for your kids when they're, during their school year. And so I'm just saying, I couldn't be more excited to have all of them ready for you guys in the early part of 2021.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of those. I have to say, I think what's going to happen here is the hardest part for teachers who are listening is to pick the book to go to first. I started off by talking about my Facebook post of sharing my favorite reads from 2020 and asking for other recommendations. And it took me a little while to decide what I was going to pick up next, exploring those suggestions from friends, but it's worth it. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I love to hear these books that are coming out, and it's just a matter of deciding which one's first.
Yeah, and we'd love to get your feedback. So I look forward to, hearing when you guys do read these books. What are your thoughts? How have they helped you in your classroom? Let's continue to get the real life experiences going, just to keep broadening like the knowledge base of all of us who are involved. So that would be great.
Yes.
Patty, thank you so much for having me on to share and talk about these really these great books. And I can't wait to do more of this with you.
Yes, me neither. I can't wait either. Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah, take care.
Okay,
Bye,
bye.
everyone.